after a delay because of an incident in a previous session on track. Pre-qualifying is underway here at Monza for our second GT World Challenge Europe powered by AWS Endurance Cup event of the season, and it is the fabled Monza circuit that we are at, quite often the opening venue, but this year it is the second visit on our Endurance Cup calendar. And as you look down from the drone at the old Monza banking, everywhere you look around this place you've got echoes of the past. The Temple of Speed, it proudly calls itself, and understandably so. And although the banking might be fairly quiet, eerily quiet, rest of the circuit really busy, because out on track have just poured the better part of 59 GT3 cars for this pre-qualifying session. David Addison and Joe Osborne trackside. Really weird start to the day, Joe. Free practice, 2 hours, 4 red flags.
It was chaos, wasn't it? And the most unfortunate incident involved the 270 come to you car. Potty had a big off into the barrier. We hear he's okay as we see the 96 car stopped on pit exit there. It's in an awkward place. It looks like it's just before the exit line, so the team can recover it at that point. That early on, it's normally that pesky FIA fuel valve that is there in case of loss of fuel pressure to stop a fire, and sometimes that can drop down. As we look into the Paradine garage, Charles Clark, Sean Glale and Darren Lung looking on there. Darren actually got 2 radios. He might even be invested in what race control have to say there, but we have lost that 270 Aston Martin. The damage too much to repair on that this weekend, so we are down to 58. I say down to 58 cars is still a huge amount for this 5.7 kilometre long Monza lap.
Yeah, Darren Lung overseeing the 2 cars from Paradine, so keeping an ear to his and possibly an ear to the sister car as well. The session then, this pre-qualifying period, 1 hour. We had an incident in the Lamborghini Super Trofeo race that stopped it early, but also then meant barriers had to be repaired, hence this delay. Ash Sutton, you're riding with for Paradine, making his GT3 race debut this weekend, his Monza race debut as well, and the closest he's ever come to a double driver race is a one-off historic race at Goodwood. So there's an awful lot of new for Ash Sutton. If you follow the British Touring Car Championship, you'll be aware of how good he is. 4 times a champion. And although he's not yet saying he's going to leave touring cars and come into GT racing, he did suggest this might be future planning.
Yeah, and it's a smart move, especially aboard this Paradine BMW. He's been very strong at times. Zandvoort for the last sprint round, not with Ash in the car, but the car was very fast, so I expect him to dial himself in very quickly. You can see the car flying through a Ascari chicane using lots of curb. Same on the left as he turns in here. Easy flat on a well-balanced car, but we have seen a lot of cars go off into the barrier on exit when they're not well-balanced, and you can start to see how busy it is out there. Essentially, each car has 100 metres of space if they're spaced out, but unfortunately with slower cars holding them up, you do get this bunching effect even in free practice.
So Ash Sutton coming up to the end of the lap, touring car champion in Subaru and Ford, and in the Infiniti as well, back in 2020, comes over the timing line, then now in the BMW onto a push lap. That starts-up lap put him second, but that's not really relevant as yet because so few people have done a lap. Now, in the free practice session earlier on, it was towards the end, certainly, really all about Mercedes-AMG. Almost as every car crossed the line towards the end, it went into the leading group. So it was a lockout for Mercedes-AMG, and you can imagine that other teams, other brands have been busy talking about the balance of performance.
Yes, it's definitely been an interesting few hours in between free practice and pre-quali as we watch Charles Wirtz with a purple Sector 2 at the moment. Dean McDonald fastest. That car had a problem, did an engine change last night. They still weren't happy after this morning's free practice, so hopefully that car is fixed for them. All these cars must start full of fuel for pre-qualifying. Why? Because in case qualifying gets cancelled, the lap times are taken from this pre-qualifying session, hence the name. So all cars are starting full of fuel. And interestingly, we'll go into it later, but all cars have to do 8 laps on their new set of tyres in this session to appease the judges and the officials to make sure that everything is A-OK. Charles Wirtz goes fastest overall.
And this is Harry King, Porsche specialist, but very handy peddler in Asian Le Mans over the winter months in LMP2 machinery. He is drafted into the Verstappen.com 2Cs Aston Martin Endurance Cup fold and has just gone fastest, a 1:46.613. So Harry King, who's raced here in Porsche Super Cup for the last few seasons, goes now down towards the Rettifilio chicane. Another of the Astons, that's the combination that won the Crowd Strike 24 Hours of Spa last year. Mattia Drudi, Marco Simmons and Nicky Tim, and that could well go top at the end of the lap, couldn't it, with an absolute best and a personal best. Mattia Drudi looking really good.
Yeah, certainly the Astons and BMWs looking really strong early on in this session. Early on, it does, of course, change, especially when the fuel load comes off 120 litres in these cars, just over 100 kilos. So it's a big transformation as that fuel burns off as they go lap after lap around this high fuel usage Monza circuit, because 91% of this lap is full throttle. The fuel gets burned rather aggressively.
We've had our first victim of track limit penalty, in other words, the lap time taken off a driver for exceeding track limits, and the first driver to upset race control in such a vein is Ash Sutton. So he's had his lap time taken off him. So whether it's touring cars or GT3, track limits tends to be a focal point. But again, we tend to see this at touring car events. Early in a session, Ash will rack them up, but then he knows where he can push and what the boundaries are, and then rail it back in accordingly. This Rutronic Porsche was the one we saw stopped at the end of the pit lane. It's not been a quick fix.
No, it really hasn't. Looking on the inside there, looks like more of an electronic issue. They're plugging that data lead in, so it'll go back into the garage so the data engineer can talk to the car live. Hopefully he can find the problem, reset it if needs be, and they can get going. They've got the tyres back in the oven, so I don't think it's a quick fix. No. Looking at that.
Alessio Picariello behind the wheel of it. Lucas Auer's yellow Mercedes in the background with a whole galaxy of cars he's got to try and get past. Porsche on the lights there, look, coming down to the Parabolica. Larry ten Voorde making his GT World Challenge Europe debut. Porsche Super Cup multiple champion. He's been on the lights. Regular nemesis of Harry King, in fact, Larry ten Voorde. Drove at Le Mans in a Ferrari last year, but he's made his name by being a real Porsche specialist and very, very successful, the Dutch driver. Up to the timing line then comes Lucas Auer, last year's sprint and overall champion with Mauro Engel, and onto a proper push lap he will now go. The other Winwood racing car of Gabriele Piana is now at the very top of the times. 46.6 is where we are, and it was a 45.8, the best in the much interrupted 2-hour session from earlier on in the day. That's 163, as you can see. That was good early on thanks to Franck Pereira. And it is Sandy Mitchell, the Scottish driver, behind the wheel. And this should be a good lap time as he comes up to break the beam. Sandy Mitchell goes through 14th at 1:47.0.
Yeah, and of course they're full of fuel like we said, but the track temperature now is over 50 degrees. So we're 15 degrees hotter. Got a yellow flag out in Sector 2 at the moment, but that's been a strong lap there from Sandy Mitchell. But yeah, so higher track temp, red flag for that Audi that is in the gravel trap. That's 26, yes.
That's Ivan Klimenko, who was such a star in Sprint Cup at Zandvoort, but Klimenko has had a spin. He's well beached in the gravel. No damage as far as we can see. Shouldn't take long to hoik it out of the way, but you can't keep the session going while the car's there, can you?
No, the thing that does keep going is the clock, though, and this is what we saw in free practice. It was almost like the drivers so frustrated that they're losing time that they want to make up for it, and they get going on the front foot super aggressively, which tend to lead to more issues, which creates more red flags, which then creates more issues.
But that creates more red flags.
Oh yeah, so then the more issues. Okay, we saw the theme, but yeah, and this is early on. This is going to be very frustrating. All the teams have 3 drivers to cycle through, bar that one Rutronic Porsche, where Hartog is essentially one driver twice, isn't he? Yeah. But that was 20 minutes each. That's not allowing for out and ins. Let's have a look. It's going in. Looked okay. You can hear the tyres go. So it went at the apex. I think the reprofiling of the apex curve there, drivers now wanting to use more of it because it's easier to hop over the inside. But sometimes when the car lands, it essentially bottoms out. It belly flops onto the tarmac, which takes load out of the tyres and suspension, and it basically high-sides you like a motorbike stage left. And I think that's how he's ended up there. But almost my hero of the dunes has found a new beach, but unfortunately not at Zandvoort this time.
No, it's not going to give him a class win, is it, or a second place overall. Matthew Drudi, by the way, had gone top. I said it was going to be a strong lap, but it was a 1:46.494. So Matthew Drudi fastest, and yeah, all of this eats into the time allowed. So the cars trickle back into the pit lane, and then we'll go again with just about everybody having been able to do a lap time. In fact, one that wasn't able to do a lap time before the stoppage, Lukas Stoltz, whose car was fastest in free practice this morning. There from another angle is Ivan Klimenko heading into the gravel. And he's not the first person to have done it at that corner this weekend. I suspect he won't be the last. And if what we've had today is replicated tomorrow, it could be a race of interruptions.
Yeah, a race of attrition as well in a lot of matters. But yeah, it was a reverse entry, I think they call it in the drift world, from that Audi R8, the gravel trap, doing a good job at slowing it down. But all of these drivers heading back, and I think now if you've got a driver that's confident in the car and themselves, I think they might hop out now and get the second driver in and start cycling through everyone. Because by the time this red flag is finished and we go back to green, it's probably going to be 40 minutes remaining. So that first driver has had their 1/3 of the session. If they're not happy, then everyone's going to have to dilute theirs. And when you've, like I said, only got 20 minutes, your maximum have got 8 flying laps. It's hard to get your eye in that quick.
So let's go to the pit lane. Alex Legui is there for us.
I do want you, Vincent. So you guys are topping the charts across the board. It's turning into a very, very successful season so far. Here we are at Monza, the Temple of Speed, not the easiest of circuit. What sort of feedback are you getting from today and just from the minimal lap that you've done there?
I mean, we still have a lot to see. I mean, we haven't seen a lot so far about the performance, about where we are exactly. So, yeah, let's see at the end of this session. In terms of long run, it seems to be, let's say, okay-ish. In terms of pure performance, we seem to miss a little bit of performance, especially in Sector 2.
So talk us through, for this particular session, what's different to free practice? What are you focusing on during that?
Pre-qualifying, you have to, well, you cannot refuel in this session, so it's quite important because it means everyone starts with a quite heavy car, and you have to start with new tires. So you have a better picture of what is the reference normally.
Good. All right. Thank you very much.
So Vincent Voss from WRT goes to make sure all is good with the cars. The WRT BMWs stayed out after the checkered flag at the end of the earlier session, if you were with us, you might recall, because there was a full course yellow exercise. Some of the teams went with the checkered flag and others went with the full course yellow exercise, so there was no penalty or anything for that. It was just a bit of a miscommunication, so they didn't get themselves in hot water, and they did do that full course yellow test. So Klemenko's Audi is off the beach and heading for the pit lane.
Yeah, through parabolic, he's just trying to get all that gravel out as efficient as he can. The team will have to make the call there whether they need to go in the box to check around the engine bay. We saw Will Moore, didn't we, earlier go off in the BMW from Century and got going, started doing the exact same process, but unfortunately threw the alternator belt off, so he had to stop the car. So the team will want to make sure there's no gravel in places that can create a bigger issue further down the road.
So in the sunshine, the fans having a walk around the circuit, getting the best vantage point they can. And Ivan Klemenko sort of kick a man when he's down. In his haste to get back to the pit lane, having been pulled out of the gravel, his speed under the red flag is now under investigation. So, yeah, okay, fair cop in a sense. You can see he's still having to obey the regulations. Right, everyone going to the end of the pit lane, ready to get back underway in just over a minute's time. Let's hear from a newcomer to the championship, though, Larry ten Voorde.
So first things first, folks, it is a power steering issue for the Rutronic car, and I'm here just going to have a quick catch up with Larry. Larry, Monza is a baptism of fire and it's very, very difficult to get a decent lap out here. What are you learning?
It's my first time on GT3 this year, my first and only race.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying, I'm learning, it's great to be back, it's great to learn also with the team. I won Super Cup last year with, and with Aitch and Juven and Maurice Schuring. It's special, it's great, and I'm enjoying.
Good stuff, you look very happy about it, thank you.
Yeah, Larry ten Voorde, as I think I said a little while ago, drove a Ferrari at Le Mans for the GT3 experience last year and scrubbed up very well, but it is in Porsches with myriad teams, most recently CLRT, but used to be Project One, that he's had great success. So the car's then ready to go. The session will restart at 15:53, which means we are just about 2 seconds or so away from the lights going green and power steering needing to be sorted, as you just heard from Alex Legui, for the Rutronic Porsche. Right, we're back in business, 45 minutes and counting. You just caught a glimpse there of the Grasser Racing Team Lamborghinis that had a rather strange morning because they seemed to do lots and lots and lots of really slow laps, but never pitted.
Yeah, I spoke to the drivers and they were pretty upbeat about it. That was their plan. They were betting some brakes in, and Jordan Pepper saying I could have done a faster time, traffic and all of this. So they were actually very relaxed and upbeat. But yeah, they're a strange one. Actually, the 19 car has been done for speeding under yellow flag, so we'll cop a 10-place grid penalty for that, and that's going to be a bit of an issue to get over, and that was Dante Rampage, who we saw had that huge off through Ascari and managed to keep out the barrier, but he was to a judge of speeding under yellow flag, and another car that got them the same penalty was the Boots and VDS Mercedes there as well, so that will get a 10th-place grid penalty too.
That one being number 10, which is the Panis Gazo Kabiru car. 007 is ready to go. Matthew Drudy, quickest thus far. So the Aston that looked P-nowhere earlier on has arrived back at the races.
Yeah, hard to see where the pace is at the moment. We're still, what, 0.8 of a second off free practice times. But as Vincent Voss quite rightly said, this is the first chance we get to see the cars all in the same trim. New tyres, yes. Full of fuel, yes. What are people going to do? Because that 8 laps I said they've got to do on these tyres. The reason why teams might want to stop at 8 is because of the nature of this race. They are able to change the left-hand side only tyres in that extra pit stop. So this is a set of tyres you could potentially keep for that left-hand side. And again, if you're in a good place, maybe you park the car up after 8 laps and say, you know what, we're going to find some time in the race, and that's more important, and let's stop. Maybe they'll take those tyres off and put some old tyres on and be able to keep pounding round if they've got it. But look how busy it is on pit exit. It's like a motorway slit road joining as they come into this chicane, and you can see this bird's eye drone shot here. The Winwood Mercedes sweeping in front. Cars doing well at staying out the way. It was almost like a merge, a zipper, wasn't it? That was very well done by everyone. I'm sure it won't continue in that form.
And you show the speed differential as well. Cars fresh out of the pits. Cars on a quick lap. Brilliant shot that, looking down at the Rettifilio chicane, turns 1 and 2. This is the Roggia chicane, turns 4 and 5. Between them is the Curva Grande, that long, very fast right-hander, ever so slightly banked, and then up to the chicane, other side of which are the 2 Lesmo curves, and then back down towards the Variante Ascari, long straight to the Parabolica, long straight over the timing line. Lucas Auer, then, the reigning sprint and overall champion with Mauro Engel, comes into the Lesmo bends, and he's got the number 911. 911 ahead of him. Auer at the moment a long way back to 33rd, but as we've been saying, not really into a proper rhythm yet. Lucas Stoltz yet to do a lap time as well. 911 Thomas Preining at the wheel. That's there, the red Porsche, orangey red Porsche. God's red, I think, is that colour, going through the shot. And Renat Salikov, number 81, he is aboard the car that Gabriele Piana took out for the first few laps.
We've got 7 cars within 200 of each other there with Lucas Auer. He's done exactly the same time as Rolf Eichin. And then just in front, there were 2 cars on the same time as well. Ash Sutton and Fuoco all on the same time. And if you think it's close at the moment, we've got, what's that? We've got 25 cars within a second. Earlier, we had 40 cars within 1 second. That is how close these GT3 cars are. 10 different manufacturers, and they were all very close. Yes, Mercedes were fast, but it really was that close earlier.
BOP works then. So Mercedes-AMG, BMW up to the line. Augusto Farfus in the Rover Racing BMW, the German motor oil manufacturer backing the Hans-Peter Nandorf team. Over the line goes Farfus, and just over 41 minutes of the session to go. Crowded house ahead of him as the Ferrari drops into the queue there, that being Davide Rigon at the wheel of the number 12 Ferrari out of the Rinaldi Racing stable, the Christian Hook, David Perel car. And another element that we had this morning, of course, all the drivers going off the road, dragging gravel onto the circuit, making it slippy, so people went off the road, and that cycle starts. Matthew Drudy's time, 1:46.4 at the moment, is the best. You've got there coming towards us Chris Lulham, who's taken over the 2Cs Verstappen.com Aston. 28th in the times there is Dean McDonald's McLaren. That's the one that had the new engine overnight. But as Joe Osborne was saying earlier, still the team not 100% happy this morning, and it spent a good 10 or plus minutes in the pits at the start of free practice.
Yeah, drivers really not sure why they were so slow in a straight line. Good lap though, P7 now for Dean McDonald. Just look at the speed traps, they're looking better, so I'm pretty hopeful that they found the issue. They were a good 5 or 6k down earlier, now they're matching everyone in the food chain, so good job by Garage 59 to get that car back up to speed.
And in the background there's Calvin van der Linde in the car that won at Paul Ricard. Seems a long time ago, doesn't it, the Paul Ricard race, but Currently fourth in the times is Calvin van der Linde. Luca Engschler, 63 Lamborghini, has done an absolute best middle sector. A car now going fastest of all, just up the road ahead of that BMW. There it is, just going under the graphic there. And so Luca Engschler fastest in a car that really did not seem to get well wound up at all this morning. Maxime Martin's car here, he never got in free practice because it missed most of the session with a sensor issue that was affecting the ABS and the traction control. Maxi Goetz eventually went second fastest, but Maxime Martin now making up for lost time. So Luca Engschler the fastest, Maxime Martin goes second for Boots and VDS, only 6 thousandths shy and 4 thousandths quicker than Mathieu Drudi. So the top three are covered by a hundredth of a second.
It's nothing. That's measured in centimetres now, and that is really tight, isn't it? 3 different cars as well. The Mercedes strong this morning, like we said. Lucas Auer is actually on a purple sector. If you look on the timing screen there, P8, the purple sector, indicating that's the fastest out of anyone in Sector 1. Here he is, coming through the Lesmos into Lesmo 2, keeping it clean. Traffic looks good. He was super fast in Sector 1, nearly 3/10 quicker than anyone as we jump on board. Sector 2 finishes at the end of this straight as we get into Ascari. We'll just be getting the breath of a slipstream from the car in front, but good enough where we're not going to get anything. And we're purple in 2 as well. Now over 3/10 a second quicker, riding through Ascari. Need a clean exit out of here. You can see that last yellow car in shot. I think he's on for a lap here. I don't think he's going to get held up by any traffic.
It is certainly busy ahead, but he might be able to escape. The next one will be problematic, so he needs to maximise this as Lukas Stolz comes up to the line. 8th fastest then. Lukas Stolz ahead in the classification of Lucas Auer, but only by 0.116 of a second. So Stolz was 8th at the start of the lap. He's fastest now, goes ahead of Luca Engschler on a 1:46.337. But here is Lucas Auer then. He's got to try and do a low 1:46 to go top up to the timing line. He goes fastest to 46.307 then. So Lucas Auer by 31 thousandths, or 300ths if you prefer, is now fastest. It is Auer, Stolz, van der Linde, Engschler, but Martin 5th. Might be an improver. Personal best, absolute best. Maxime Martin now breaks the beam. Fastest, a 46.0.
Wow, really good lap. 1.5 tenths quicker from Karl Basch, who's just come out of nowhere. So Mercedes 1, 2, 3 and 4, but someone's just lost their lap. Car 42 has lost it to track limits. So they've been knocked down the order, but great lap from Maxime Martin. Yeah. One of the Karl Basch car has lost its lap as well somewhere. He was up there for a second, in second, but great lap from Maxime Martin. 2 purple sectors, car looking good. Boots and VDS much more on top of this Mercedes in the last 3 races.
Karl Basch track limits at turn 1. 42 BMW, that's the Jared Weberski, Wilmore, Max Janssen car, also track limits at turn 1. That's the first chicane. So Lukas Stolz was the fastest. By the time he gets down towards the Curva Grande, he's back down to 3rd. And the first sector of this lap a little bit slower than it was previously. Let's see. Oh no, sorry, he has recovered, so he's piecing the lap together. But Martin is still on a mission, another absolute best.
He's got all 3 sectors now, hasn't he? Sector 1, 2 and 3, not on the same lap at the moment, but let's see his form. We've got to have all 3 Mercedes up here because it's hard to call. Lucas Auer looks like he's backed out of this. Sector 2, you can see there, 8 tenths off. This is going to be a lap from Stolz. This is going to be very close. It's going to be 0.5 tenth here or there, first or second. Where's he going to be? To the line, crosses it, second, 10.5 by the end. Sector 3, tyres going off. Maxime Martin, tyres going off. Sector 2, these Mercedes seem like they've got their time out the tyre, but now it's dropping.
Right, so let's see where Martin is there when he comes up to the line. Into the pit lane has come Lucas Auer. So indeed he had backed it off, and for the moment he is done. Maxime Martin we are waiting for, but yet to come across the line. Mustang rejoins. There is Anthony Bartone, the American driver, getting set to go. I wonder whether Maxime Martin might be bailing for the pits. He did an absolute best Sector 1, but Sector 2 seems to have taken a long time, and it's been a very long wait in Sector 3. So now Matteo Cairoli will take over from Lucas Auer. Dust being kicked up on the exit of the Variante Ascari, and it was a slow lap by Martin, a 1:53, but he didn't pit. The last sector, he dropped about 5 seconds. Looking for track space?
Yeah, just looking at the track here, I think he was, but unfortunately cars then pulled out of pit lanes of taking all the space he'd worked so hard to get. Potentially just trying to take some energy out the tyre, lower the surface temperature. Like I said, track temp now 52 degrees, so these tyres will be just getting over their operating window. It will take some pressure out as well. He's going to come through Sector 1. What can he do? It's not a great Sector 1, so I think the tyre has had its peak, and he's probably going to look to bail at the end of this lap.
Now, Luca Engschler was the fastest a little while ago. He's done a personal best sector 1, but dropped a little bit of time in the middle sector. Marvin Kirchhoff was on a mission as well in number 59 McLaren in the background. Let's worry about Luca Engschler first, racing in GT World Challenge Europe and the DTM. Made his name initially in touring cars, winning championships in the Middle East and Asia, and he comes up then now towards the timing line. So Engschler looking good, bouncing back from his nasty accident at Macau last year, and he stays 6th. So personal bests bookend the lap, but he lost a bit of time in the middle.
Yeah, there couldn't do any traffic to uphold him. Kirchhoff in the McLaren there, up to 3rd place. We saw that car struggling for most of free practice, and then got himself inside the top 20 late on, so doing well on that one. And the McLaren getting there. And there's the Boots and VDS team, both drivers ready to go if Martin does box. He's in the last corner at the moment. The lap doesn't look quicker, so potentially they're going to come in for the change. Here's the Verstappen.com Aston Martin. I was speaking to the guys earlier, Lullen and Vermeulen. Obviously in sprint they raced that Ferrari. I just want to go and see what the differences were. The main one really was the visibility. And I've driven this Aston Martin and I know exactly what they mean. When I got in the car, they were like, everything good? I'm like, yes, but it's just very dark. And they're like, strange feedback. And I was like, I appreciate that. But the visibility, the engine's so big and seeing out was so difficult. So it'll be interesting to see how they get on. Let's actually listen in to the team radio on this car.
The rear pressure is going up quite high.
So high pressure for the left rear tyre. This is the car that's currently fastest in gold. Harry King did the lap early on, don't forget. Chris Lullam has taken over, although Lullam in the Ferrari in sprint has been an absolute revelation, and it may well be that that car boxes this time so they can cycle through Thierry Vermeulen. Marvin Kirchhoff as McLaren is up into 3rd. We've also got the 99 Ezekiel Perez compact Audi at the moment heading silver, and the best of the bronzes is the Renat Salikov Mercedes. There it is, the turquoise car in the back of the shot that Gabriele Piana did a good time with earlier on. So, of course, in bronze, you only need 1 bronze driver in the car. Maxime Martin then remains fastest. More of the teams now pitting, cycling through drivers. That's your 99 Silver Cup leading car. Ezekiel Perez compact sharing it with Alex Arca and with Alberto Di Folco. 2nd in silver, Jared Weberski's number 42 Century BMW. 3rd is the Paradigm 992 BMW, Charles Clark at the wheel of it. Then the CSA Racing McLaren of Edgar Mauin. Alessio Deleda is 5th, and Kirby Pauwels is 6th in silver right now.
It's actually a race, this, isn't it, between the Audi and the Aston Martin? They're 9th and 10th respectively in the times, but Perez compact fastest in his class and has really moved up a gear this year, I think, with his driving. Has been super fast and consistent so far this season. I think he seems to be enjoying his time at Trezor Attempto Racing and has really come on. Lullam there seems like he's just pulled away over this lap, so maybe they've just shifted into the race pace. He was 4/10 quicker in the 2nd sector. I don't think they're going to improve now. They've lost the peak of the tyre. This Pirelli, very peaky. What does that mean? It means that when it's brand new, the most performance is there. Some drivers saying they can only get 1 fast lap out of it. Some others saying they can get 2. So in qualifying, that'd be interesting. We'll see Lullam bail for pit lane.
So Thierry Vermeulen on standby to jump on board that 2Cs run Aston Martin. 2Cs made its name winning in Mercedes, indeed won at Alton Park on Monday in a Mercedes in British GT, but then different car, different drivers, different relationships, got to be on top of this weekend. That's your best bronze at the minute. Renat Salikov turns out of the chicane, but he's got the Almanar by WRT BMW by the look of it, tucked up behind Jens Klingman at the wheel of it. Coming then now down to the Parabolica, Klingman up the inside, tries to squeeze through the traffic. And he does so, clears that car. Of course, Klingman part of the outright winning team last year when we had that bronze car winning outright thanks to the clever WRT strategy. 1 or 2 loopholes have been tightened up in the regulations to try and stop that happening this year. But we'll worry about strategy and pit stops and the regulations when we get to the race. Right now, it's all about times to try and sort out an order in this pre-qualifying 1 hour, which, of course, were the qualifying tomorrow morning not to happen. We've had in the past either bad weather or I think there was 1 year where power went down. Then you could take that as the grid. So number 10 is the 2nd Boots and VDS Mercedes, Aurelien Panis behind the wheel of it.
Yeah, ready to get the car going. Has to be skated nose out as the sister car comes in. So you'll see the air lights go in. Mechanics putting those skates underneath. They slot around the air jacks, so they're nice and secure. The car then gets dropped once the mechanic raises his hand, the universal signal of we're good to go, and then they rotate it on those caster wheels so it's good to go, and it gets a clean exit.
Just going back to Ivan Klimenko, who was the driver that caused the red flag. Not only did he cause the red flag, not only is he being looked at for speeding on his way back to the pits under the red flag, he's also lost his best lap time for causing the red flag. So that's the gift that keeps on giving, isn't it? Or taking away in his case, maybe.
Yeah, it shouldn't hurt him too much, should it? Like you said, this is only used in force majeure if qualifying is cancelled. So that deletion of the fast lap's more of an ego thing than a result-driven problem at the moment.
So Maxime Martin there, number 9. We saw in the earlier session Maxi Goetz doing the driving, so that means that Mikael Grenier needs a go because he hasn't been in it yet. But they might choose to send Maxime back out with 1 or 2 adjustments made.
There's a driver change. Interesting taking the tyres off. I wonder if they've done that strategy we're talking about where they've done the minimum 8 timed laps. They've actually done 10, and then they're going to put an older set on and potentially save them for the race. Mechanic working on the rear brake disc there. It looked like he was just trying to rotate it round. Just checking there. They obviously had that ABS sensor issue on the other side earlier. Nicky Team, fastest sector 1 for that car so far. Not many cars doing that, so see if he can continue out in sector 2. Lost a bit of time, 2/10 down at the moment. Still got a good chance to overall improve his lap time as he flies over the inside there. You can see one of the McLaren's working its tyres super hard there. Which car was that? Just trying to see. I think that could have been Louis Prep potentially. Team flashing his headlights furiously, trying to get that RGM McLaren to at least notify himself that he is there.
So 007 Aston Martin, Nicky Team heading up towards the timing line. The now traditional marketing number for a quick Aston Martin, 007, although I think I've said before in the Fleming novels, Bond is a Bentley driver to begin with. Maxime Martin now out of the car, discussing how it feels with the team. So we'll wait and see who is going to take over. It might be that Max gets back in it, but I would think Mikael Grenier needs some laps now. But it's still shown as Maxime Martin in it, even though the car is in the pit lane. The transponder has not yet flicked over. Right, this is Jules Gounon, who was fastest this morning, and he comes now out of the Ascari chicane. Yeah,
just to finish up on the Nicky Team, he's up to 6th place now, so it was an improvement of lap time there. Jules Gounon on a good lap. You can see 3 cars, I think, all trying to get out of each other's way, in all fairness, into the last corner. Is he going to be able to improve it? It's so difficult once that peak of the tyre has dropped. Yes, the fuel load's coming off. Cars have probably used around 40% of it. We had that red flag actually bailing for pit lane, I thought there, but actually just taking a very narrow line. We saw quite a lot of Formula 1 drivers started doing that based on what the simulator was proving, that the shorter distance was worth doing. Even though you kept a tighter steering radius, it was ultimately faster. So a bit of a quirky line there. It's interesting to see if anyone else adopts it. The drone shot here, Gounon's so accurate, hitting his apexes perfectly there, unwinding the lock, and then full throttle out of that first chicane.
And then the speed builds, doesn't it, into the Curva Grande. Just ever such a slight tilt to the corner, and then it flattens out again, still on the throttle up towards the second chicane, where we saw Louis Machiels have a spin at the end of the free practice period. And Jules Gounon has timed this pretty well because there's not that much traffic around him. He might catch 1 or 2 by the end of the lap. The next victim of the gravel bed, it's Garage 59's McLaren, isn't it? No, it's the Optimum McLaren, forgive me, of Mikey Porter going off the road.
Yeah, that was brutal. You can see there's almost like a trench being dug on the exit, because when he got there, the car dug in. Again, that gravel's just getting moved away. That would have been a big old hit on the splitter. Looks okay, it's low, but yeah, the bodywork won't be liking that, and Optimum will have to have a good check over that, but that car will be pebble dashed and it will still be rattling gravel all the way out. That was a lucky escape there for Porter,
who shares it with Largim Ali and James Allen, the Australian. So up to the line comes the ComTU Aston, and right now we've got 25 3/4 minutes of the session to go, and it is again a Mercedes-AMG 1-2. But what we haven't yet done is got excited about the man that's gone third, because Joseph Loke has taken over number 59. That was the one that Marvin Kirchhofer drove earlier. Benjamin Goethe drives it as well, but Joseph Loke, in his first year of GT3 racing, is currently third in the classification. Jules Gounon is about to go top, is he not? Because he's done a personal best, an absolute best, and as he breaks the beam, fastest, a 1:46.003. and that is not quite as quick as they went this morning, a 45.8, but maybe the car is much heavier now, of course, because you have to start this session by regulation on a full tank. That levels the playing field for everybody were this to become the grid.
Yeah, that's a mega lap. This late on into the session, the tyre's now done 11 laps, so they're well over 60 kilometres, and that's pretty much sort of a halfway distance. Valkenhorst looking on. They'd had a difficult morning, didn't they? The Chavez car had a turbo issue that they were trying to find and put their finger on the exact problem there.
Yeah, and then they lost the number 270 Antoine Potti car after quite an impact coming out of the Variante Ascari. Now, where is Luca Engschler up to in terms of the time? He's given the car over to Jordan Pepper, so it's 9th now. And another of the Lamborghinis going quickly is 163. Mattia Michelotto has taken over from Sandy Mitchell and got the Vincenzo Sospiri car up to 5th. But Lamborghini's looking a lot more competitive in this session than they did this morning.
Yeah, the Grasser cars we said about earlier were running a strange strategy, so kind of ruled them out. Pepper on a lap here, 9th at the moment. Be touch and go whether this will be an improvement or not. Just trying to watch the car, see how the tyres are looking. Balance looks nice. Keeping it relatively tight. You tend to see drivers go straight to the white line. Again, they're trying to work out distance over time, his speed. He's trying to find it there. Stays 9th place, half a second off the fastest time.
As down towards the chicane goes Jordan Pepper. A bit further down, Max Hofer has dragged his Audi up to 34th. He's the last of the improvers of note. But actually now, with the exception of Gounod, there aren't that many significant ones. Although Mikey Porter, believe it or not, the lap after he had his big moment, has improved to go 14th.
Yeah, he's just got the green sector 1 as well, yeah, on the lap after. So he's obviously tweaked that McLaren nicely, taken some aero bits off that he didn't want, and now the car's a bit slipperier, less drag. As we see Max Hofer, the attitude of that car's so aggressive through the Ascari chicane. It's going to get the best slipstream possible. Why? Because that Ford Mustang is the biggest silhouette of a car. The big V8 pushing through there, no replacement for displacement, the Mustang guys tell me, but this could be a lap from Hofer, 34th at the moment. If this sector 3's pretty tidy, I think this could be putting him well inside the top 10.
Up to the line goes Max Hofer then, and 12th he ends up. Not a bad shout. There's one other car missing. I've not worked out whom yet, but we know there are 59 in the entry. 270 has been withdrawn. That should give us 58, but only 57 have been seen. Who else this morning had a problem that might render them out of the session? I'm trying to work it out.
Leave it with me. I like a challenge.
All right, me too. See who gets there first. Number 5, McLaren, heads towards the line. Mikey Porter should be on for another improvement. Yeah, 17th to 12th. Good effort that's for sure.
Yeah, as this fuel load comes off, cars react differently. Some cars actually quite like fuel. Fuel is never good because it's weight, of course, but it does change the centre of gravity depending on where those cars have it.
It's the Rutronic Porsche, isn't it, the other one that's not been out, because we saw it head down the pit lane, but then we saw it going back to its garage. So yes, tricked me that, because we had seen it, but it never actually got out of the pit lane. So it tried to take part, but not for very long. Jules Gounod, absolute best sector 1. A little bit down in the middle, but then he did the most amazing lap this morning where he wasn't faster in any sector but still went top, and he's gone still fastest there, a 46.5 that lap. So not as good, but he remains at the top. Joseph Loke's done a personal best in the 59 McLaren. There is Gounod in the Silver Dream Racer coming over the curb into turn 1.
Yes,
and that's Loke.
Yeah, we go to Loke through the Ascari chicane. How was his sector 2? It was a personal best as well. He's got a bit of traffic, might get held up by that Century BMW. Surprised he's not on the headlight flashes yet. He will be getting the slipstream. He'll be watching the Delta going. That'd be worth anything up to a 10.5 per straight, that slipstream, but he's backed out of it. Yeah. And that's where the driver has to make the call to then get the next lap clear. That will be so frustrating for him. He feels like he can go again is the only positive, but that was a lap that could have been challenging Gounod, I think, because that McLaren very strong in sector 3, because Parabolica, the high aero corner, is exactly what that McLaren likes.
Thierry Vermeulen's got 33 Aston up to 8th, and Max Hofer, I think we'd seen improving in his Audi. Well, he went quicker still to 9th because a few have had lap times, taken away for track limit offences, so the order continues to shuffle. Bit of dust being kicked up there at the chicane. Another driver to improve. Larry Ten Voorde has got the 22 Schumacher CLRT Porsche up now to 23rd. Porsches aren't really delivering here. 12th is the best of them, though. That's Thomas Preining's Pure Racing 911, number 911. And Joseph Loke is about to encounter the Century BMW number 42.
Yeah, that was the car that he backed out of the previous lap, wasn't it, to get some space? And I think it was that car that dropped it on the exit of turn 2 and kicked up all the dust in his face. Here is that 911 car just getting compromised by the boots of Mercedes, who was just lurking on the apex. Might have a problem. Looks like he's going to pit lane, but that would have really compromised Pryning. Not just on the entry, but on the exit. He would have had to wait longer to pick up the throttle. He crosses the line now in his 12th place.
So through goes Pryning. And a little bit of traffic up the road ahead, including Michele Beretta's Lamborghini. There is Larry ten Voorde. So the Schumacher Porsche coming out of the Retifilia, the Dutch driver with his stellar one-make Porsche track record, now trying to break into GT3 racing. That's the danger. You spend so long in Super Cup or Carrera Cup Germany, in Carrera Cup Italy, which he's won as well. But after a while, you get pigeonholed and people don't think you can do long-distance racing. Ten Voorde way over the curb there, makes a bit of a hash of the chicane and backs out of the lap as a consequence.
Yeah, that's not what you want for an endurance race, bouncing over those curbs. All of that energy firing through the car, and yeah, the suspension and damping. Yes, it can take it a few times, but the more you do it, the closer you get to failure on that one. And he's just obviously dialing in his braking point there. Just a bit too hot in over the first curve, which had naturally bounced him wider over the second one. Loke was actually improving in sector 1, but then boxed. I expected that because they haven't had Benji Gothin yet, so I think the team would have given him, you've got one more lap. If it's up, you can finish, but if it's down, you need to box. As we go to Sorensen in the 08 car, another best personal sector 1.
Mikey Porter has gone 11th and Jordan Pepper has gone 3rd. So Mikey Porter's McLaren is going so much faster after he put it through the gravel, and Jordan Pepper is proving that the Grasser Lamborghinis are certainly forces now to be reckoned with, as Nicky Team watches the pictures of Nicky Team watching the pictures of Nicky Team watching the pictures, and he wants to see how 007 is doing, because Marco Sorensen is 7th at the moment in his car.
Yeah, the team watching on intently. I wonder if Mikey Porter's just making sure he hasn't left any stone unturned when he went through that gravel trap. Team looking at Sorensen, probably thinking of getting held up a bit by that Get Speed Mercedes, who looks like it's bailing for pit lane. The sector 2 wasn't his best, but it was okay. I don't think this will be an improvement on 7th place, and he does stay 7th.
Okay, so Marco Sorensen goes by. But do you want a good race car or do you want a good qualifying car? I suppose ideally you want both, but at the moment they have got a car that is okay on pace, but should be there or thereabouts for the race as well.
Yeah, just looking down the order, still some green sectors flying in, so interesting to see which cars seem to be keeping their tyres in good place.
And Gunon has just done an absolute best in the first sector, so back out again and really on the money, as you can see on the graphic. Mikey Porter being held up at the Parabolica. Oh, that lap started so well, but it's going to be squandered, isn't it? Because he gets stuck behind that Comtieu Aston on the run now up towards the timing line. Through he goes. Mikey Porter's lap keeps him 11th, 47.0. Gunon's backed off a little bit in the middle sector. More joining in from the pit lane, and Mikey Porter still can't clear the traffic. Kobe Pavel's ahead of him. Now, how's Gunon doing? Well, he's got traffic fore and aft, so this lap might not pull up trees in the end. The Rutronic Porsche, by the way, we saw Picciarello being pulled back into the pit area. They're still working on this power steering issue, so they've lost 3/4 of the session. As here is Gunon up towards the line. Absolute best. 10th down in the middle. Net result, he'll stay fastest. That was a 46.033, and his best was a 46.003.
Yeah, 300 slower. It was worth finishing the lap, but we haven't seen Schiller in that car yet, I don't think. I think Stoltz started and Gunon's done quite a lot of driving, so Schiller will be itching to get on board, I'm sure. Maurel now in the car. We saw our start this car at the start of the session. This is a lap that's in the mix, that's for sure. You can see that on the timing graphics. It's going to push to the line. Can it get 145? That's where we need to be, and it's just going to be over, isn't it? 4th place for Maurel.
Yeah, 46.129. Best lap of the session, but not quite enough. But again, it's still 3 Mercedes in the top 4. So just as we saw this morning, it's a very strong brand around here. It doesn't have the best track record in terms of wins, but at the moment, they are looking very, very strong, and they've got strength in numbers too. So Engel carries on. He's got 15 minutes of the session to go. So 58 cars we will have racing tomorrow, but at the moment only 57 have been out there, still with that Rutronic Porsche struggling with the power steering. Have a look down from the drone. You've got the football pitches, you've got the buildings around the outside of the Monza Park, and more curb bashing from Maro Engel's car. Bounces into turn 1. Again, more wincing from the engineers as they see the load going through their pride and joy. Engel, though, has found half a tenth maybe by riding the curb. Every little helps. So that's the car that's 4th at the moment.
Yeah, right to the curb. So wow, when you see these cars land, 1,300 kilos they weigh, and they land like a gymnast. They just don't have a secondary bounce. There's obviously a big problem with that Rutronic Porsche. They're deep into it. Power steering pump has obviously failed, and it's one of those frustrating ones. You can see Piccarello looking on there. We stopped the car in free practice. It was all okay, and now it's broken. Why? I know everything has to break at some point, but it's always bizarre when it happens in between sessions as we go on board with the Ford Mustang here, the 65 car. It hasn't been at the sharp end just yet, has it? We want this car to get better. The team getting more and more on top of it. HRT, a top team, race winners when they had the Mercedes, so I'm sure they will get there. Riding on board with Roman Andriello through Lesmo 2, able to use lots of curb, and let's go with it. And you can see the gears going up, and let's just listen in on this because it is one of my favourite sounding GT cars ever. And you can see how quick it is coming to the Scaro chicane. Let's just listen in.
David Schumacher, your chauffeur in that Haupt Racing team, Ford Performance Mustang, brilliant noise, and the car 49th in the times at the moment. Lap time just been taken away from the 32 Ugo de Wilde BMW, as there up towards the Ascari chicane goes John Southern Jr. in number 333 Lamborghini, a car that was in the gravel with a punctured tyre in the hands of Marzio Moretti earlier on in the day, and almost deja vu because 42 was in that gravel bed in free practice, and it's in that gravel bed again in pre-qualifying. This time, though, it comes out the other side.
Yeah, Lesmo 1 got stuck earlier, and Lesmo 2 it drives out Will Moore, still finding the levels then. As we rode on board with Schumacher there, you could see everything going on. He had this BMW flashing him into turn number 1. I think the BMW will get him this time by. The 333 Lamborghini in front went off at the first chicane. So, yes, it looked like quite a relatively uneventful lap, but it just shows you how much was going on. That BMW trying to stay as close as possible to get the side draft, then heading over to the inside to get the pass done. And it looked like Schumacher then just lifting out the gas to making that job a little easier for the BMW.
So Schumacher then in the bewinged Mustang comes now with 11 minutes on the clock out of the Rettifilio. That is Louis Machiels watching on. He had a spin earlier on in the day. His Ferrari currently in the hands of Andrea Bertolini, and it is 54th in the 57 car list that we have. The Ziggo Sport garage empty on the other side at AF Corsa because that is on track currently, the car that Chris Froggatt is driving. And how's Raffaele Marciello getting on? Well, he's kind of not. He's only 33rd, and you don't normally say Raffaele Marciello and 33rd in the same sentence.
No, it feels strange, that, doesn't it? And that Rover car we're not used. So those two mighty combinations, Rover and Marciello, all the way down to 33rd. I think this will be an improvement. 28th, only 5 places gained. That's a lot of head scratching going on at that team for sure. They would expect to be well inside the top 10, I would assume.
Off the road there, is that 3, the Bartone car? Yes. I think we saw Anthony Bartone getting ready to get on board, and he has gone straight on at the Rogier chicane and now gets it fired up and rejoins. So Anthony Bartone blasts back on track, another of those get speed cars, but time wasted on this lap. 48th he is at the minute.
Yeah, it looked like it needed a master reset, didn't it? Off and on in the escape road and then aggressively fired up, and has now got a problem there and put his hazard lights on to get out of the way, but still going at a fair rate of knots. A bit of an interesting one. Expect him to box this lap.
True enough, that's the car shared with Karol Bash and Yannick Mackler. The team seems to be content. Karol Bash watching on, but the car's bound to be in this time. So Karol Bash, who made his name in Lamborghini Super Trofeo and now driving something different. Good to see him driving different brands. And you get a better idea, therefore, of how good a GT driver is. So often they get picked up by one manufacturer and stay there and get pigeonholed. But some, not all, but some at least are able to go from one brand to another, but not many.
Yeah, one of the most aggressive drivers I've ever raced against as well. Had him behind me on the start of a race once in a GT3 race.
Karol Bash.
Yeah, and he was banging the back of my car, smashing before the lights even changed. And I was on pole. And I said to him after the race, why are we doing that? And he said, why not? Fair enough. Can't really argue with that, can I? So I had a huge amount of damage on the back of my car before it even started, and that kind of sums up his attitude to racing. So hard and not very fair.
Living up to his name, Karol Bash, at the start of the race. Right, so that car is heading for the pit lane. In the meantime, here, 7th in the times from Pereira in the VSR, Vincenzo Sospiri racing Lamborghini. Vincenzo Sospiri, who has made a very good fist out of running teams for the last, 3 decades. But just about got to Formula 1, but then never raced after that whole Lola MasterCard debacle at the start of the season. But his Lamborghini team has always been very good, whether it's in Italian GT or Super Trofeo. There's 25, the Santalot car, but Gilles Magnus at the wheel. And in the back of the shot is 15 BMW, the Team Italia car. That was quite a long way down early on, and they've tried to chip their way up the order back into contention.
Yeah, it just doesn't look like the BMW's fully firing on all cylinders so far, pace-wise, but we've said that before, haven't we? And then in the race, the car stays very quick as the track changes. It seems to be the most adaptable to changing conditions, I think, out there.
There's 25 then. Gilles Magnus coming out of the Ascari chicane. There you've got the track limit cameras you can see in shot. So policing not just out of, but through the corner. And the information from that relayed to race control. And there's photographic evidence of the car, the number, the time of day, showing who ran wide and to what extent.
Yeah, and you've got to keep one wheel on the track white line on the exit there, so that is what's pinging all these track limits that we're seeing. They've got the same setup at the first 2 chicanes as well for track limits, so there is no escaping. But seeing those dangling wires there, I'd be tempted to go with a pair of pliers tonight as a driver, give them a little snip.
Over the timing line goes number 911. So that car was well up early on when Thomas Preining was behind the wheel of it. And there is another of the rapid Mercedes, which is 6th overall. This is Colin Kerasani, the very quick Dutch driver, fastest in silver, as you see, from Alberto Di Folco and Alessandro Frassinetti. But Kerasani has pulled that car into 6th. So now we have got 4 Mercedes-AMG in the top 6 outright. Here we go again. Yellow in sector 3. So somebody's had a moment. This time at turn 11, which is the Parabolica. Red flag. And it's a Ferrari, I fear, that has gone off the racetrack.
Yeah, car 50, right on the exit as well of the Parabolica.
So who's at the wheel of 50? Got to look a long way down the order, in fact, to find it, I think. Arthur Leclerc. So his brother having won the Italian Grand Prix here. That younger brother, Arthur, off the road. 66 there. Alexei Nesov had done the absolute best, sector 1 on this lap, but it all comes to naught because there is a red flag. And with 5 minutes to go, I would think that, no, session will not be resumed. That's it, job done.
Yeah, that will be super frustrating for Nesov. And again, low fuel. Seems like the Audi really came to life there, didn't it? That was a mega first sector. So he'll just have to tell the team how mega he was. There's going to be no evidence on that on the timing screen for them. But yeah, Mercedes strong. And that's a big hit. You can see Leclerc walking away there. And that's early on. So it's on the exit of Parabolica. But you tend to see cars drop it towards the start of that painted curb area. But that must have got loose as he's picked the throttle up at the apex and had a very long, lazy backward spin into the barrier and a fair amount of damage on that. And the next time that car is out is qualifying tomorrow morning.
Indeed so, and therefore they'll lose that best lap time because of causing a red flag. The telehandler on the way to get the car out of the gravel bed, but Arthur Leclerc off the road. And this is how he did it. A lot of speed carried in. Exit stage right.
Yeah, the car, he's picked the throttle up and the car will have traction control, of course, but it seems to have just lit it up. And at that speed, the balance aero-wise is very sharp. So as soon as you get any oversteer, it suddenly snaps round of you, and there was no controlling that. And it's a pretty big gravel track, but it skipped across it. And I still think it's hit the barrier a good 70, 80 kilometres an hour. Take the rear wing off, there'll be a fair amount of bodywork damage for that AF course team to repair overnight.
So the session at an end with about 5 minutes to go. And we understand also that the Anthony Bartone Mercedes, when we saw it suddenly slow, had a whole crop of lights appear on in a big surprise. So rather than risk anything, that's why the car was stopped and restarted and then limped back to the pit lane. So everybody will trickle in. Session done. And at the end of it, Fabian Schiller had got into number 17, but didn't get much time in the car. So Lukas Stolt, Jules Gounon and Fabian Schiller topped both sessions then in number 17. Number 9, second in both sessions, Goetz, Martin and Grenier. Mirko Bortolotti, Luca Engschler, Jordan Peppers, Lamborghini in third. Best of silver, Colin Carasani did the time. Best of gold, Harry King, Chris Lallam, Thierry Vermeulen. And the best bronze in the end was the Tom Fleming, Miguel Ramos, Guillaume Oliveira McLaren, ahead of the Andrei Mukavos, Max Hofer, Alexei Nesov Audi, which was second, and third in the class, Nicola Rossi, Nicola Scioro and David Fuminelli's Ferrari. But again, as we were saying during the session, with 4 out of the top 6 being Mercedes-AMG, all looking good for the 3-pointed star. And fastest then is the Get Speed entry of Jules Gounon, Lukas Stoltz and Fabian Schiller. Confirmation that Arthur Leclerc okay, out of the car safe and sound, but that'll take a bit of sorting for tomorrow. And as we had briefly seen, number 96 Rutronic Porsche, that never got out because of its power steering issue. The Jessica Hawkins, Alexandre Leroy, Antoine Potti Aston withdrawn after the amount of damage sustained in the free practice session earlier on in the day. So that car is out for the weekend. Interesting, isn't it, how many teams have still had problems? You know, you've got Rutronic, had a win in 2 weeks ago at Zandvoort in the Sprint Cup. As you say, the car went fine this morning, and then all of a sudden, not only does it not go, you lose a whole hour trying to get everything sorted. So big disappointment. Let's go back to the pit lane. Jules Gounon's had a very good day thus far, topping both sessions. He's with Alex.
So Jules, not only a very strong free practice, but another strong pre-qualifying session as well, puts you in good stead.
Yeah, it's only practice, so it's always nice to be at the front, but let's see tomorrow, and everybody rocks up in quali with full push. Let's see where we are, but so far we are working well. That's the main focus with our car. We have been working, as I said before, very hard. Did 2 days of testing here, and the work in the winter is finally starting to pay off. Once again, it's free practice, so we try tomorrow to do the same and see what's going to happen.
Fair, but what more can you get out of this car?
I hope a pole position, but you just hope always to do the best. But once again, I'm just really happy the way we work. It's been very difficult last year for us in Get Speed. We didn't understand a lot what was going on. We found a lot of stuff that was missing during the winter, and now we start to be okay. But let's see, once again, tomorrow free practice is for nothing, and tomorrow we start hopefully to score some good points.
Hopefully you'll be improving Mercedes' history here, if you like.
Why?
Because they don't have a strong history in Monza.
Yeah, well, we try our best. It's a bad luck to speak before. Once again, we try tomorrow good quali. There is over 50, 60 cars on track, which is very hard to find a gap. There's a lot of red flag. You need to be lucky. You need to perform. So it's the hardest championship in endurance in the world in GT. So we will try our best and see where we can come.
I hope luck is on your side. Thank you, Jules.
You can tell that Jules spent a lot of time with English-speaking teams. He has good colloquial phrases like "people rock up with ... and as Alex makes the point, trying to turn around the fortunes of Mercedes-AMG if possible when we go racing tomorrow at around about 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. Jules Gounon then, fastest in both sessions today. 57 cars headed onto the track for pre-qualifying. We'd lost the Rutronic Porsche number 96 of Alessio Picariello with a power steering issue, and although the team got the car back, it could not repair it in time, and it didn't venture out at all. Harry King was quick early on in 33 Aston before relaying Chris Lallam and then Thierry Vermeulen, and that car ultimately fastest in goal. We had an early red flag when Ivan Klimenko put the Audi into the gravel, and 007 yo-yoed up and down the order, looking rapid pretty much all the time, but not having quite the same pace as the Mercedes-AMG, nor did the BMW number 32 Paul Ricard winners WRT, struggling to break into the top 35 on occasions. Lucas Au, Mauro Engel, Matteo Cairoli quick, fourth in the end behind 163, which for Pereira was the fastest driver. In 63, Lambo, though, was third of Mirko Bortolotti. Joseph Lope was quick for Garage 59 as well. So lots of different cars, all yo-yoing up and down the order at different times, depending on who was behind the wheel. Mirko Bortolotti, though, third. The Grasser Racing Team Lambo is looking a lot better this afternoon than this morning. A car that had very little running in the morning session, but second fastest this afternoon, Maxime Martin for Boots and VDS. But fastest, again, the Get Speed number 17 car, Fabian Schiller, along with Jules Gounon and Lukas Stolz, topping the times, and then a red flag when Arthur Leclerc went off the road.